Okay, so today I want to talk a little bit about hunger and more specifically like hunger levels when you're dieting and trying to lose weight and trying to lose fat. So the first thing that you need to understand is that when you are trying to lose weight, trying to lose fat, you are going to be in a slightly calorie restricted state. You are going to feel hunger. Like there is no way of getting around that. Hunger is going to be a sensation that you're going to feel. And if you're not feeling hungry and you're feeling full and satiated all the time, then the chances are you're either lying to yourself or you're just not actually in a calorie deficit and you're not actually in a position where you're losing fat and losing weight. Like hunger is going to be there. And if you can wrap your head around that before you start, it's easier. Now, by hunger, I don't mean that you should be ravenous between meals and starving constantly. You should just be in a constant state where after an hour or two after each meal where you feel like you could eat again. And that's not a bad thing. Hunger is a good and normal thing when you're trying to lose weight and trying to lose fat. And actually, we quite often perform better when we're in a slight state where we feel a little bit hungry as opposed to being completely full and stuffed. So it's important to understand that that's going to be there and accepting that from the get-go. Now that said, there are some things that you can do to try and kind of reduce these hunger levels. So the first thing is to make sure that you're not in too steep a calorie deficit. So you only want to be eating like a couple of hundred calories less than you're burning each day in order to be in that kind of fat burning zone, typically. Any more than that, and you can go into a point where you're just too hungry, which results in obviously binge eating and overeating and just kind of giving into that temptation. But you have to be disciplined enough to know that you're going to feel a little bit of hunger. But making sure that you're in a relative calorie deficit as opposed to like a big absolute calorie deficit is key. You can also make sure that you kind of like build a routine around your eating. So try and eat at the same times each day. Try and space them out fairly evenly, your meals, whether you're having 4 meals, 3 meals and 2 snacks, or just 3 meals throughout the day. Try and space them out evenly. Making sure you're getting a good amount of protein in each meal, because that's going to help you feel full and reduce your appetite and hunger levels. And also making sure you're getting a balance of fat and carbs in each meal too. Now, there's certain things that you can have in between meals that may help, like coffee mid-morning in between breakfast and lunch tends to work quite well as an appetite suppressant. Diet Coke or just diet drinks in general, water, they work quite well. Don't be worried about the don't be too worried about the artificial sweetness and stuff in Diet Coke. I'm drinking this one right now. In the sense that one can every few days or a couple of cans a week or whatever is not really going to do much damage in the long run. There's actually very limited research as to artificial sweeteners actually being that bad for you. So don't worry about them. Having the odd diet drink occasionally to help curb hunger levels isn't going to be a problem. Plus they taste good. Like I really enjoy the taste of Coke, and if I can have a Diet Coke and not get any of the sugar and the calories from regular Coke, then I will, because it helps me. So things like coffee and Diet Coke work quite well. Little cubes of dark chocolate in between meals tend to work quite well, but you need to make sure that you take into account that you're having them. But that shouldn't be your main focus. Your main focus shouldn't be on trying to add things into your diet in order to deal with the hunger levels, but they are options available, okay? So let's recap a little bit. So making sure that you know hunger levels are going to be there and you're going to feel hungry. Trying to get enough protein in each meal, balance of fat and carbs, spacing your meals out evenly, trying to build some sort of routine around when you eat and how often you eat is going to work really well. But also important to note is that the more weight you lose and the leaner you get, the more you're going to be better at actually dealing with hunger, and the better you'll be able to properly manage it. So understand that it is part of the process, and that no matter what, if you're trying to lose weight, you're on a diet per se, you're going to feel a little bit hungry. And I was kind of reminded of this myself today because I've dropped my calories significantly at the moment from where they were, because I'm just trying to get a little bit leaner before I slowly start to add a little bit more muscle. And so I've dropped my calories a little bit, and I was starting to feel a little bit hungry, and I was like, okay, so this is it. I'm starting to get into that point where I know I'm on the right track because I'm feeling a little bit hungry, but I'm not completely starving, which is what prompted me to make this video in the first place. So knowing that hunger is going to be there is really, really critical. And trying to build some order and routine around how you eat and building some structure is going to help. Now, there's no one trick to dealing with hunger. Like, you're not going to be able to just not be hungry when you're going through this process. So you have to kind of get your head around that and make it part of your mindset. And quite often as well, like, we perform slightly better in a slightly hungry state than we do when we're completely satiated and full. So that's something to bear in mind as well. Another thing you can do is try and keep yourself busy. Like, when you stop and you're not doing anything and you're bored, a lot of people, like, I say bored in inverted commas because boredom isn't really something that should happen in today's world, but it does. And then people emotionally eat because they're bored. It's not really because they're hungry at all. So try and keep yourself busy. Try not to have too many big breaks in between work and leisure time and things like that. Keep yourself busy, stay active, do things, and just let the hunger just be kind of like a noise in the background, because that's all it eventually will become. Initially, it might be just there at the forefront of your mind all the time, but over time, that kind of, the mindfulness will take over, and it won't be quite as big a problem as it once was. But like, there's no way around it. Like, if you want to get the results you want, you are going to have to feel a little bit of hunger, and you're just going to have to live with that. Otherwise, you're never going to quite get to where you want to be. And if you're okay with that, then fine. But if you're not, then accept the hunger. That's kind of what it's there for.